Hey everyone, I'm Candace Scalise.
I'm Joel D. Smith. We're going to be talking about the Charlie Kirk, what we believe and most people think is an assassination attempt. By the way, definition-wise, assassination means it's politically motivated. So we assume that's what it is. He's a political figure. He's on a campus talking about political things.
Yep.
We'll get the official motive at some point. But either way, a political activist, Charlie Kirk, dead at 31.
31 years old. He has a toddler, a baby at home, his wife. So his wife's now a widow. And he was just talking to students at Utah Valley University today when somebody shot him. And we now know there's still a suspect at large.
They initially, someone may have confessed initially who had nothing to do with it. Maybe distraction, someone looking for attention, who knows. And then they had a person of interest who's been released. And so whoever did this is still on the loose today in Utah. You're watching this on YouTube right now. This is the unfortunate moment right before he was shot.
Yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube, maybe you are more into the digital political world than others. But there's a ton of people who don't know who Charlie Kirk is, even though he has 8 million followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
And 3 million followers on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who, I mean, I think I just found him randomly on Instagram. Like, I don't, you know how you find people on social media. Somebody, it's like, follow this person.
Well, they get popular and then they feed you who you think.
But he was really known for going to like high school, college campuses. He was at Penn State and he basically would just welcome debate.
Well, you see what's happening here in this video. So he's on a platform, unfortunately, very exposed.
This is part of his American comeback tour.
Right. And it says something like that, prove me wrong, right? Because there's an open mic and he basically asks people to come challenge him. And he's very educated on his topics. He has his point of view. He's super conservative.
Yep.
And so he is willing to debate people. And that's what was admirable to so many people, is that here's a person who's not just going to yell it from a platform or go and make a speech. He's going to interact. And if you have a better idea than his, he wants to hash it out and go for it. And yes, he took a lot of pride in, when he wins the argument, amplifying that on social media. Some people didn't like that because he would, say, own the liberals or something like that, right? And so if you're on that side of the political scale, you're not going to like him because he was very effective at what he did. Right.
And he knew what he believed and why he believed it, which is one of the reasons that he was so good at defending what he believed and why he believed it.
And of course, the mainstream media, as conservatives call the mainstream media, a lot of the legacy medias you'll see, CNN, MSNBC, even sometimes, NBC and some others, they call that the mainstream media, the liberal media. They say there's been bias for years. So these kind of voices were viewed by conservatives as being really important because they felt like they weren't being heard on other platforms.
Right. And so they're using social media. I mean, think of Megyn Kelly, who has her own podcast now, and that's blown up, right? So, and she used to be quote unquote mainstream media. So
yeah. So you have him as one of the main people that do this. There's others as well, but he had his niche, young, willing to go out to these places and engage in this debate. And his thing was, may the best ideas win. And he was very good at what he did. Even so, to the point where Gavin Newsom, who
probably is anti everything Charlie Kirk,
right?
In a sense,
but he had him on his podcast, and I loved it. I have my show, Face the State, and my favorite thing is when we get two smart people with differing viewpoints talking educatedly about a topic.
And
that's where you learn something.
Oh wow, okay, you understand why the person thinks the way they do.
You might not agree with them, but you understand why there's a perspective out there, and so he would get into any topic and do that. And his political future was endless.
Well, he was so instrumental, it sounds like, with President Trump in 2024 because he recruited so many young men and women to vote.
Yeah, the young vote was big. I don't know if we can go to his one of his pages. Isaac's our producer of this. Maybe one of his social media pages, just to see something different than this the whole time. Just to show how many
people followed him.
Yeah, people who followed him and what was going on with that. This is more footage from that day. But he was given credit with a lot of others for engaging young, more so males, to the conservative side and voting for Donald Trump. Remember Donald Trump went on all those podcasts and doing these things.
Went on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and so Charlie Kirk's part of new media. That's very conservative and has been this wave. I mean, the younger vote used to always be Democrat.
Right, and it's changed, which has been
that has changed, and it's voices like this that do it.
Right, right. And so he was obviously very influential.
Yeah.
And very good, like you said, at what he did. I think today it was just a shock. I mean, unfortunately, the video is out there of the gunfire, which we have seen, and it's really tough to watch because at the end of the day, he's a human, and we're all human.
And that's what everybody's saying. You know, well, everybody, most people, even his hugest political enemies, have said things like, you know, I hated him, and yet
he didn't deserve this.
He didn't deserve this.
Yeah.
Another thing they said, turning point is his political action group really targeting younger voters, younger people to try to get them into it. One of the strategies was, you know, a lot of younger people say, politics doesn't affect me.
Right.
He would bring up topics and say, it actually does.
This impacts you.
Here's why it impacts you.
Yeah.
And so that's right. So prove me wrong debates. You're seeing some of that here.
And he was young. I mean, when you think of 31, to me, that's young to have that.
But he's been doing this for
since
about
2012 is when he created his Turning Point nonprofit.
Now you're seeing him more along the lines of when he was 20.
Yeah.
Doing some of this stuff. And obviously you get better at your craft. The other thing I was going to say about this was, there's, you know, I have a lot of people in my life who are, I would call political, right? Some of them I talked to today didn't know who he was.
Really?
Huh. But I have a kid in high school who does. And he's not political, my son.
Because it's social media?
TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the younger people are on TikTok, they've been exposed to him.
Yeah.
And they've seen his stuff, and they've seen the debates and the highlights, because, you know, it's a highlight culture on social
and you
media.
you can find one debate and just listen to it, and it captivates you because it's two very strong sides, and you listen to it. It
is. And once again, you know, some people didn't like that he would put out the parts where he made somebody look dumb, you know, and uneducated. And they said it was an unfair fight in a sense, but he had an open mic. If you want to bring somebody up who had a better fight,
you're stepping up to the microphone.
And sometimes when he had a bad answer, someone would take that and say, "See, I got him," you know.
Yeah.
And that's what that online culture is about right now.
Yeah.
It's making those headways and those headlines. The other thing for this, it's really historic. So he's not an elected official,
right?
But he is a major political figure when you talk about his impact and the followers that he has.
Yeah.
And so this, if it turns out to be an assassination, which once again, all signs point to, it'd be the first of political assassination since RFK, since Robert F. Kennedy in the 60s.
Yeah. And we were just talking earlier about the attempted assassination on Donald Trump when he was campaigning, and how close that was, and how sometimes we forget, like, that the bullet grazed his ear, you know, like how close it was, and that could have been. And now we have
inch this way, inch that way. This is said from what we do know. Getting back to the news part of this, it was a pretty far shot, 200 yards. I've heard different experts say that that's not a difficult shot if you have a gun that's, you know, got a tripod, and it's set up well, and you can get down there and whatever.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's so sad to see that he was almost exposed on a perch, and which is great to see if you're at and he was at an event. You want to see the speaker. It's why you're there. I mean, thousands of people were there at this small college, but it also made him very visible. And unfortunately, it seems like an easy target.
You can see at the top of his page, like his Twitter page, his Instagram page, if we want to go through any of those too. But I think, I don't know. To me, it's just shocking that it happened. And I mean, we're in the news business. We cover very sorrowful, very heavy things, but it just seems like so many people I've talked to today are like, what is this world coming to? And we're talking about the Colorado shooting. There was a shooter at a Colorado high school today.
Right. So, you know, part of this is historic. It hasn't happened in a long time. Somebody like this, the reaction has been all over the place. Social media is not a healthy place sometimes when it comes to those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's the woman who was stabbed on the train recently. So a lot of tough news is out there, but this one's hitting a little bit different because he was viewed as the future of the GOP. Right. And one of those people that just engaged so many that there's other people like him, but not exactly like him. Yeah, because I don't know if you want to get into this, but I know that you and our chief meteorologist, Tom Russell, were talking a little bit about like who would be like the equivalent on the other side. Like and there's really not. And that's part of what they're trying to address. Yeah. You know, saying that they don't have someone like that who is kind of a firebrand who goes out there and like, talks to people in that way. And they're trying to create that. That's why they have a couple of people coming up. That's why Gavin Newsom, he's probably going to run for president in 28, engaged people like him. He put him on the show and says, well, this guy's working. Let's get to some common ground here. Maybe I probably agree with you on more things than you know. And they had a fantastic debate about stuff. And so they're trying to find someone like that. So there really isn't somebody that goes out and does these kind of things on the other side.
And this is an example of like what you would see on Instagram is just like he's talking, she's talking, the words are up there, they're engaging, they're challenging each other.
So I talked to Congressman Scott Perry about Charlie Kirk, and of course he was upset by it, but he said he was told about the danger of what he's doing, because when you're as popular as he is,
you're putting yourself out there.
You are, and these are debates. So he has a strong will on his side. The other side is not going to like that to the point where they may hate that.
Yes.
And all you need is one person who's motivated by that hate and to do something. And he said that Charlie knew that he was a target. Now he viewed as a target of probably more so of heckling or of threats, not of actual action.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the first big action is a successful one from the person who wanted to end his life.
Yeah, I was really surprised when the news came out that he had died, because really early information said we knew he was in critical condition, but then like there was just stuff floating around that made me think that he might be okay. And then all of a sudden, President Trump posted on Truth Social that he had passed away at the hospital.
Yeah, that's one of those moments you might remember forever, because it's, we were in the makeup room together. Listening to the coverage.
And you knew what they were going to say because of how they were delivering it. And you're just like, no, don't say it.
As soon as they said, now we have an official word from the president. So the fact that the president's tweets or, social media posts was the one that made it official was really chilling.
Yeah.
And halfway through it, I said, no. And then.
It's just that anytime you lose a husband, a father, these kids are going to grow up without that.
Yep. We can't forget about that part of it. And what was the other thing I saw? This was a liberal person on social media said, don't forget, as horrible of a person as Charlie Kirk is, the person who killed him is worse than Charlie Kirk. Just to put it in perspective, that there is
someone who really couldn't stand
there's
him.
Political hatred, and then there's actual life hatred.
Right.
And you can hate someone's views, but it doesn't mean you have to hate them.
Right.
Certainly to the point of action, but even hating them at some level that's to this, festering amount. And, we've seen political violence on both sides here.
Yeah.
We're not saying one side does more than the other. People can make, their judgments on that. And remember, political violence isn't just assassination attempts.
Right.
It's being physical. It's showing up at someone's house. It's making threats to their home.
About like other stories we've reported on where people have been
attacked. Brett Kavanaugh, someone came to his home. I mean, obviously, Josh Shapiro, there was an arson, and it was said that person wanted to go inside and finish the job. But the door was locked. So this stuff happens, and unfortunately seems to be ramping up. Yeah. And there's lots of theories on why that may be. And we get these moments in time like now, where both sides come together and say, we need to calm down. We need to take a breath. But at the same time, there's just as many people that are so mad that they want to do something about it. And we could be in a tough.
It could be more divisive.
Yeah. Especially when blame comes out. And it's almost like people are cheering for and rooting for who the shooter may be. Yeah. So they can blame that group and somebody. For it. All right, folks, we're at the early part of this. I know we're rambling a little bit, but I think these are some of the thoughts that we're all having.
Yeah. I mean, well, you have to process it all too. I think whether you knew him or not, the more you learn, it's just like you have to process everything that's going on, and maybe you pay attention, and maybe you don't. You close your eyes and you go on with your life. Yeah. What you talked to Charlie Giroux too, who knew him and spent some time with him. Yeah. What did he have to say?
Yeah, he once again. He amplified how unique he was. So did Scott Perry. This person that everyone wants the young vote. That's the future, right? Yeah. I would say the Republicans kind of gave up on that at some point. They figured, they're young. They all are going to be liberal because they're in these colleges. They're being taught this. I mean, that's been the line for so long. But it was proven different this time. That if you want to engage with them and show them why this topic may mean more to them, you can get there. And so the fact that he was able to connect and inspire so many people to vote, first-time voters, a lot of them, to get involved and come around, it's a big reason why, Trump won in 2024.
Yeah.
Really, the new voters, but, by any metric you look at, people that had never voted before voted for Trump much more so than Kamala Harris.
And I saw something that was like, it was for finances and family or something like that. I don't remember. I probably shouldn't quote it, but it was just like why people voted the way they did, if they were younger, if they were male, kind of thing.
Yeah, there were those kind of things. If the messaging was different. I could get into that. I covered some events and I saw some issues there. But the Democrats did have a problem speaking to young men. They really didn't. And so I think they want to change their messaging for that now. But that's a political story for a different day. This is sad. You said this is a person who now leaves behind a wife and kids and had a bright political future, and his present was really impressive as well.
Yeah, and I was thinking about too. I mean, I wonder how many people were at that event. We don't know.
I saw the estimate of 3,000.
3,000. So there are 3,000 people who witnessed that too.
And they're going to have to digest that, because this is that moment that's going to live in American history. I know when we see kind of things every day, we go, okay, there's another thing, but this is one of those moments we're going to talk about forever.
Right. And tomorrow is 9/11. We were just talking about that with like different events, and how I think they said tonight on CBS Evening News, 1/3 of Americans weren't alive when 9/11 happened. And so talking about that.
It's been 24 years. So that was one of the few events that, in my lifetime that united everybody.
Yeah. Right. You saw American flags everywhere.
Yeah.
Right after
and no one asked who voted for
Nobody
who.
cared.
It was all about, we're together. We got to figure this out.
Unified.
We were all hurt by it. Even though the politicians are together on this now, they're also throwing in things like, let's talk about gun control.
Violence,
let's talk about, the kind of rhetoric you've used. People are bringing up different social media posts that were, very negative towards Charlie Kirk, and did this lend to something else? I mean, there's so much out there. It's hard to put specific blame anywhere, but it would be interesting to hear from the shooter, the actual motive. What was it? Was it one topic that they didn't like from him?
Was it a personal vendetta? Yeah, like the why behind it's going to be, if we find that out, it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, but it's just really sad. But when it goes to violence, it's just something that it's beyond debate anymore. Like let's talk about it. Let's debate it. Let's vote on it. That's how you win or lose. It's not by
part of the
taking out the competition.
Right? Yeah,
that's goes against everything is that the political system is made for.
Yeah,
so.
We have our Yasmin Cowan too, talking with some different people tonight. So she's going to join us at 10 and 11 o'clock on our local news, just to talk about how just people who are responding on different college campuses and people who knew him. Right.
And one of the thoughts from her was that, seeing her to college freshmen who hated Charlie Kirk and who said this never should have happened.
Right.
Both of those thoughts can be there just as passionately.
Yep.
You can easily look at that.
Yeah.
Politically hate him, but as a person, know that he shouldn't be killed for it.
Yeah. No, he's
his views. Yeah. His views. Like, all right, folks. Thanks for bearing with us. If you want to share some thoughts as well, we welcome that. It's kind of nice to kind of cope with all these things together.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic for sure. And I mean, as we report on it and as we talk about in the news, it still impacts. I just talked to my husband before this and I was like, it's been a heavy day. It's just been a heavy day talking about all this, because it's not fun to talk about death. It's tragic, Yeah. So
we'll see where it goes from here. All right, folks, tell us what you think about it. We'll give you the latest. And the news part of this, the shooter's still at large. Yeah. So they got to figure this out too. So,
and they keep saying that we have somebody, and then it turns out not to be the right person. So
this is 21 Next. This is one of the ways we give you information here. So share this if you like, give us some comments. We'll see you next time. Thanks
for joining us.